There are three key messages from this paper. One, there is continued preference for jobs in the public sector. By public sector, we mean the government sector. Despite the years, despite the declining role of the public sector in hiring new entrants to the labor market, which is the second message of this paper, there is continued preference. The public sector remains an employer of choice to a large segment of the labor market, as the data shows. So two key messages so far. There is preference for the public sector, and that the public sector's role in hiring these new entrants to the labor market is declining. The share of public sector hiring is declining because we see that guaranteed employment, of course, has ended. The scheme has ended. Not everybody gets to get the job in the public sector they want. We compare working conditions in the public sector to those in the private sector, those inside establishments and those outside establishments, and of course the last group, those outside establishments fare the worst in the labor market. The public sector remains an employer that provides substantial difference in terms of benefits. It's the sector that has almost universal access to social insurance, to health insurance, to paid leaves, to opportunity to get a leave without pay, shortest working week, highest level of reported satisfaction about the job. This is in the public sector. So it's obvious that there are reasons for this preference for work in the public sector. Our third point of departure in this paper, we look inside the public sector. We compare cohorts to see dynamics of change within the public sector labor force. So the younger cohort is more educated than the older cohort, so there's higher prevalence of access to university education. Of course, some of the comments we got, that there's access to certificates, but we're not sure about quality of the education. We're not talking about this. We're talking as the data shows, there is higher prevalence of those with higher education among the younger group compared to the older group in the public sector. The public sector is hiring relatively more women. The public sector is not yet at gender parity. Less than 35% of workers in the public sector are women, which is the general conception, the general perception that the public sector has usually has so many women. But because those who say this look at those in administrative jobs. But women are only in administrative jobs and in education and in health too. But there are many other sectors where women have no representation. So the public sector is not yet at gender parity, but it's improving, as we see from the data. So it's more educated, showing more gender parity. It is more competitive to get into the public sector. We see competitions as a way to get to a job in the public sector increasing. We're also seeing an increasing role of friends and relatives to find a job in the public sector, which is something that we need to really alert policymakers to. These micro-level incidences need to be addressed and need to be addressed by strong policy measures to ensure that this is going to remains and continues to be a meritocratic sector for hiring. These are our key messages. We are also looking at the nature of job contracts in the public sector, and we're seeing there is increased informalization of jobs in the public sector. So the public sector, still people predominantly have contracts in different contracts, but there is a growing trend of those working with temporary contracts.